Bum, 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 bum. Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Make him the cutest that I've ever seen.
All right, we get it. It's a very good
Give
song.
him two
And it's
legs
been on loop for
like
Attention, this is
No,
an
that won't do.
emergency
You're no
broadcast
better. We all know
from
they
the
got past
Arsenal.
you.
Our
Now look beside
broadcast
Arsenal,
has
I've got
been
real news to report.
compromised.
Now
Please
let's
stay tuned for further information.
Bob's your uncle. I think we're through. Haven, come in, Haven. Well, that darling red light's flashing again, so I think it's that time. Bobby Dimes with the Wasteland Times. That's right, I'm back and still hopping. Bet you all thought I was a goner, huh? Well, it's gonna take a bit more than a couple goons to put this news hawk in a big sleep. Speaking of sleep, how about that ditty, huh? It's that stand-up guy, Mr. Sandman, taking the waves by storm. Oh, force, rather. Sure is a toe tapper. Well, after the first couple times, that is. I don't know about you, Haven, but it's been on repeat non-stop for weeks on my radio. So I think we've all had quite enough of this repetitive rascal and decided I'd give you all a change of pace. Me! So who is this Sandman? A courtier who just can't seem to get a song out of their head? Or something much more dastardly? Whoever, or whatever it is, has got the know-how to get past the Arsenal and Tech. Not that that was too hard. I mean, I was able to do it with just a couple of scrap and a whole lot of gumshoe. Well, something tells me this is a bit more than just a bad case of some sticky music. Called a hunch, but I'll be keeping my ear to the floor. Well, with that out of the way, we got a swell show for you tonight. Xmas shenanigans, starvation, and a murder potluck most foul. Last Xmas, I gave you my heart, and the very next day, you said, wait a minute, is this real? Whose is this? Yes, Xmas is coming on to the little town of Haven, and with it a whole slew of stories. The reports reaching my desk have been simply unbelievable, real swell tales. Our first story of the night involves local nice guy and bartender, Johnny Two Smiles, who was wrongfully placed on the naughty list and kidnapped by Krampus. Members of his gang, the Lonely Streets, gave the streets some company that night as they formed a mob to rescue their falsely accused good boy from his current situation of being in 10 tons of trouble in a 2-ton sack. A veritable sack of sorrow indeed. Luckily, word from Johnny himself and his current well-beings eased the rabble and halted the fickle crowd before they had a chance to burn down half the town in pursuit of their beloved bartender. Johnny has since been reunited with his esteemed gang and juice joint, a little shaken up, but none the worse for wear. And a good thing that, too. If I'm going to make my way into Haven, you bet your bippy I'm going to want to get simply spitlicated in the famous double tap. And how would I get some good giggle water with no bartender? I do love myself a liquid lunch from time to time, especially in times like now, where regular lunch is hard to come by. Starvation sets in across the wasteland as winter's cold and frost kills crops far and wide, leaving strains everywhere scrambling for food. No one is safe from this epidemic. Even gorgers have resorted to eating from their own pack, as well as reports of growing aggressive behavior in raiders. Stories of desperate townies resorting to cannibalism have seemed to be infected with some sort of madness brought on by the inability to process other strains' meats. Doctors and scientists have yet to confirm if said activity will be affected or if this is just how they normally feel. When asked this question, here's what one wastelander had to say.
When you put it that way, I almost feel bad for them. Almost. But they die every day, so their hunger is over. But I'm alive. Today. And yesterday. And hopefully tomorrow and next week. So I got to keep being hungry for, like, a while. So feel bad for me. And then give me some food. Please?
While some wastelanders have rolled up their sleeves and dug in their heels to try and cultivate the rapidly freezing land, others have begun doing exactly what you'd expect wastelanders to do. Steal, cheat, and even kill for their next meal. Supply runs near Haven have been frequently attacked. Some sources say the town of Haven is just a bunch of murder hobos looking for any excuse to kill anyone who gets too close. Others say it is a way of survival and means of putting their town and people above all else. I had the pleasure of running into one of Haven's own residents, a full-dead Lascarian by the name of Gilgamesh Khan Westwood, who had this to say.
Well, hello, Mr. Dimes. My name is Gilgamesh Khan Westwood. I'm a full-dead Lasarian. As for my thoughts on the so-called raids on the supply runs around Haven, there has been only one raid of supplies that actually happened within Haven's walls. It happened Friday night, and the circumstances no one is quite sure of. My thoughts overall, I believe that Haven is being used for its manpower while not being properly compensated. The strong-backed people of Haven are bending over backwards to get supplies for the Alliance through the town when we could be farming or hunting. If the town must resort to raiding supplies because we simply won't be able to survive otherwise, then Haven will do what it always does, survive. However, I honestly believe there's more at work here, but that answers your questions, does it not, Mr. Dimes?
Indeed it does, Mr. Westwood. Indeed it does. When you've been in the news game for as long as I have, you learn that things aren't always black and white. Except for penguins. Those things are almost exclusively black and white. But life's full of tough choices, and sometimes the right choice isn't always the popular one. But what do I know? I'm just a guy with a mic and a box, and it's my job to give you the facts as they are presented to me. It's up to you to do with them as you please. Like this next story. Some wastelanders are beating a shortage by living up all they can. Resident Sasquatch man and self-proclaimed god Galtiaston Amrock of Blacklaw hosts a murder potluck for Havenites. Contrary to attendees' prior beliefs, no one was actually murdered at all. Instead, Zahn stories were shared amongst a mixed group of newcomers and veteran Havenites. Whether the expected murder was kept at bay due to a larger-than-expected heart in the big man, or a greater-than-expected attendance of witnesses, who's to say? I'd sure risk being murdered for good food and stories, but hey, that's just me. Haven, you've been simply festive in the face of pain this month, and in the case of our next story, they're one and the same. A Winterfest held in town turned the Double Tap's main room into a roaring scene. Attendees were met with prizes, food, festivities, and friendly fire. Singers sang songs, dancers danced dances. The smell of dirty water dogs and grilled cheese intoxicated patrons. And you all shot some poor son of a gun, for fun. And here I thought that flame of passion died out in the wasteland long ago. You people really know how to sling lead for cred, don't you? I'm looking at reports from eyewitnesses who recall the poor bastard's screams of pain being drowned out by your own screams of laughter. Apparently the Yorker in question was running the fiasco himself and insulting shooters as they bumped him with a belly full of lead. Eyewitnesses say no Yorkers were seriously harmed in the making of this event, but some pride might have been damaged due to the bullseye one crack shot was able to land through the Yorker in question's crown. That's a Yorker for you. You can bust his kneecaps and break his femurs, but nothing hurts him more than disrespecting that crown. Oh, the humanity! Oh, the humility! But, oh, the profit! Most of the profit made by the festival went to providing newcomers to Haven with better equipment and training, though the scene was so successful that operators running the event were able to walk away with fat and happy wallets. A festival in the middle of a cold and starving month? Now that sounds like the cat's PJs to me. Really, what better way to get people's minds off the horrors outside than throwing one hot hop? A swing! Give me the old Charleston to chase off the blues if you catch my drift. But let's slow it down a sec, Haven. I'd like to take you to a part of the studio that I'm not too proud of myself, and yet I can't bring myself to board up this horrid hole in the wall. Listeners, I take you to the Whisper Wing, a hole in the wall where information not yet proven true or false leaks into my studio. And while I pride myself on presenting the hard truth of the wasteland, some pieces of gossip are just too good not to share. Some of this info might sound like applesauce, bologna, punk, banana oil, malarkey, but some of these bodies seem to really know their onions. But I will admit, I've fallen for my odd ruse here and there. So let's drift, you and I, listeners, through the Whisper Wing. This starvation seems to be bringing out the worst in people. Now, I don't want to start any sort of panic or witch hunt or nothing, but there's been some talk of people eating each other. I don't mean no Raider Sallies or Zed Joes, I mean everyday Haven folks. Now, I should repeat myself, these are rumors, but starvation seems to be bringing out the worst in even the best people. So I don't want to wave anything off too soon, you catch me, Haven? Is it possible that hunger could drive friends to feed on friends, significant others to snack on each other, babies to be smothered in barbecue sauce? Oh, dear sponsor, the bayback ribs. Could little old lady Josie be planning on dining on your tenderloins at this very moment? Just keep your eyes peeled, Haven, before somebody peels them for you. To help you all figure out if your friends are planning on making you their next meal, I've scribbled up a list of questions to help you find out just that. Do your friends sometimes give you the hungry eyes? Do they insist on wearing spices and herbs as perfumes and deodorants is all the rage? Do you sometimes wake up in the middle of the night to find your friends sneaking nibbles of your fingers and toes? Do they insist only you can clean that way back part of the oven? Do they constantly tell you you look good enough to eat, even though your hair is just a mess and you're really not feeling your outfit today? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, then congratulations! Your friends think you're delicious, and you should probably get new friends. Next on my list, citizens of Haven have started noticing things going missing around town. More specifically, food. While no one can say for sure who's actually stealing the food, it has raised suspicions that it might not be a who, but more rather a what. Some point to the possibility of an infestation of wasteland creatures that lurk in the dark, sneak around in the shadows, with dangerously short tempers and repulsive hygiene, lunging at anything that moves and has a bite to match its horrible bark. What I've just described to you could be a number of horrifying, disgusting wasteland creatures, or your typical Havenite. Something else has crept in from the woods, but this time less scary and more tasty. The smell of cooked bacon wafts its way through town, hypnotizing hungry residents. Most comment on the aroma in a pleasant light. Pudding smells good, but others remark that it smells like cooked reclaimer. Did some wastelander just get lucky enough to find some hog log? Or is somebody out in the woods, teasing hungry residents with the promise of a meal long overdue, only to turn them into the next meal that lures more hungry souls to the same fate, thus creating a horrible, terrible, hungry cycle? One case is worse than the other, yet both smell equally as pleasant. A Dapper Dan in regular show clothes has been spotted wandering the woods around Haven. This fancy fellow's presence raises suspicion to residents after no one was able to identify the stranger, probably due to the skull mask obstructing their face. Business on the bottom and rigor mortis on the top. Who could this calcium cranium newcomer be? Could be anyone. Could be anything. One hopes whatever lies beneath that mask means well and isn't just here for our bacon, cooked in the woods or otherwise. Spring cleaning might have come early this year, so bust out those yard sale signs and get to selling. Someone just might be in the market for your junk. Reports of a group of strangers wandering into town looking for supplies to send up north. You may ask, what kind of supplies are they looking for? Are they willing to pay me? What's up north? What makes them think I'm willing to part with my junk? Why don't they get their own damn junk? All good questions, Haven. All good questions, and not a single one will be answered. If you wanted facts, you shouldn't have come to the Whisper Wing. It's like trying to find good hooch in an outhouse. Not you again. Why don't you go change yourself, you lousy dewdropper? Well, folks, it looks like that's all the time we have for tonight. Mr. Sandman's come to whisk me away to Dreamland. I'm going. Jeez, pushy. Anyway, Haven, that's all for now, but don't worry, you'll be hearing from me again real soon. This has been Bobby Times with Wasteland Times, and you're listening to Wasteland Times Frequency. That's WTF for short. Thanks for tuning in. Good night, Haven, and always remember to...